We're here today to talk about how the airline industry can harness AI. And it's interesting because I think when you think about airlines, they're not necessarily synonymous with technological innovation. But today I have with me Massimo Morin, who is the global head of travel at AWS, Rick Seaney, who is the vice president of innovation at Three Victors, and Kevin Wang, who's a senior data scientist at United Airlines. I just want to thank all three of you for being here today. Yeah. So I guess, and then I also want to just mention, you've probably heard this before in the other sessions, but feel free to put any questions you may have in the Elevate app, and we'll try to get through as many of those Q&A questions as we can towards the end of the session. So I guess just to kick things off, Rick, so you were in Istanbul in October for the Focus Summit, and you spoke about the rise of AI agents for flight shopping. And before that event in December 2023, there was this survey that had the 19,000 global respondents, and 70% of those people in the survey said that they would use an AI agent for flight shopping. And now that feels like a really long time ago when it comes to AI. And in January of this year, OpenAI released a agent called Operator that, among many tasks, can help users book flights. The functionality is still currently limited to GPT Pro subscribers, but how does this release compare to what you predicted?
Yeah, I think AI, if anybody follows it on any daily basis, it's changing dramatically. I thought it would be about Q3 of 2025 where we saw this onslaught of AI agents just for everybody's benefit. An agent can take the things that it's tasked to do and actually do actions upon them. And it can do it in an autonomous way. So you can just let it go and it'll work on your behalf 24/7. I like to think of it as a little person sitting on my shoulder that I can call on anytime I need to, and could take over my computer, could take over my phone, for example. Obviously, that has to be opted in to do those kind of things and a variety of payments. But the one thing I did notice, and I think it's really going to happen in Q3, is in 2025, the tail end of OpenAI's revenue forecast. So there was going to be at least 20% of their revenue related to agents. So they think it's going to be here, and I think it's happening sort of at the same point.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the impact of that. And, just to follow up, are there any other trends you're seeing in the industry around AI?
Yeah, I thought the one thing that could slow this down was the cost. Right now, these huge labs are absorbing the cost. It's quite expensive. Some of these queries that people are making maybe $40, $50, $70, $80, $100, even though they're using the free version. But in December, China came out with a really low-cost model that was as good as some of the new models. Meta came out with an open-source model recently that's as good as the new ones. So the cost is actually, during that time frame, almost divided by 10. So the cost is going down. The likelihood of it happening is, and we see frameworks. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this, but you've seen this take over your computer or take over your phone, and it does exactly what you ask it to do, but it does it relentlessly over and over again, which is going to change the way look-to-book ratios happen on websites, for example, and native apps.
Yeah, so you're expecting this use of AI to become more widespread as we can kind of like reconcile those high costs.
My barometer was if my wife downloaded ChatGPT, and that happened about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So when that occurred, I knew it sort of hit the tipping point.
Yeah, and Kevin, I want to go to you. You've done extensive research on dynamic offers and dynamic ancillary bundles. And based on your academic research and experience working at United, what impact do you imagine the use of AI shopping agents by travelers will have on how airlines approach and utilize dynamic pricing?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. I think the core of Rick's message was that the way people shop for flights could change in the future with AI, right? And whenever we hear that as airlines, we need to start paying attention, because historically, whenever that has happened, whenever the technological change has introduced some new way of shopping for flights, that has had huge impacts on airline business models. So when I go way back to when sort of travel agents were booking tickets through GDSs primarily, the airlines that succeeded were the ones that showed up on the top of that GDS ranking. And primarily, that was sort of the schedule and travel time. So what we saw that the business models that succeeded were the hub and spoke airlines that tried to optimize their connectivity and minimize connecting times. Then in the 2000s, the OTAs came along and started ranking all of the itineraries by price. And we really saw the low-cost carriers take off. Unbundling became the name of the game because you wanted to have the lowest base fare to show up on the top of that ranking. So now in the last few years, airlines have tried to segment their products with things like branded fares, and technologies like dual RBD has helped us distribute those and give customers more choice in what they book. And tools like Route Happy have helped educate customers on what they're booking and making sure that they value the add-ons that they are purchasing. So these tools all sort of change what business models succeed. So AI in the future could open new opportunities for new business models. So where AI comes in is currently with these branded fares, we're mostly limited to 3 or 4 in the economy cabin. And the main reason for that is, first of all, there's only that many things you can fit on the website before we as consumers get overwhelmed. And the second thing is also in sort of marketing psychology, we've seen many times that a product line with 3 or 4 products is sort of the optimal for customers to choose. But if AI agents are now evaluating these offers instead of us personally, we can expand that to potentially tens or hundreds of different offers. And the AI agents can sort of distill the best ones and summarize it for the customers to choose. So NDC and dynamic offers could help airlines distribute even more different bundles and offers for the AI agents to evaluate.
So you think with AI, it'll make that shopping experience easier for customers in the way it distills all those options?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, like, no matter whether it's AI changing the way people shop or whatever thing comes along in the future, we as airlines see new opportunity in that. So currently we can make customers choose between 3 and 4 different bundles, but in the future, AI agents could choose between many more.
Yeah, and I want to open up our discussion now to the entire panel, and I want to start with you again, Kevin. What impact will this have on how airlines approach pricing optimization? What does it mean for the willingness to pay when AI agents are shopping on behalf of a traveler 24/7?
Yeah, so now we've laid out the opportunity, but now the question for us airlines is, how do we price these offers, right? And how do we optimize the pricing between them? And that's exactly something I studied in my research at MIT with the PODS Consortium, where we were trying to understand what is the opportunity here for revenue management and how do we tap into that. So we've identified the opportunity in a number of fronts. First of all, we found that sometimes not showing the customer everything that we have to offer can increase revenue. So think of it as you have like a website, and sometimes you don't want to show like some cheap product, such as like a Wi-Fi pass or something, because that could draw eyeballs away and click-through rates away from like your more expensive ancillaries like extra legroom seats and stuff like that. So optimizing the offer set we show can increase revenue, and the other thing is optimizing the prices of the offers that we do show can increase revenue. And the way we optimize it is we've developed a new model that can model the customer's choice between the different offers and optimize the pricing so that it's not just a la carte additive pricing as we see many times today, and tap into that revenue opportunity.
Want to take a crack at that?
So I would like to highlight that it is not only the definition of the price and the bundle you're offering to the customers. The customer really need to understand what he's buying and actually how you are going to deliver that. Personalization, we talk about personalization. Everybody wants to be a retailers. Amazon, everybody wants to become the Amazon of travel. But what Amazon actually does is bring confidence and trust with the customer that you're getting the right product at the right time, at the right price. In fact, I found myself when I go shopping to Amazon, I don't actually look for the cheapest price. I actually look at the Amazon recommended product. Why? Because it is a combination of what you're getting, the reviews that it has, and so forth. So when we are getting to the travel product, there is a bit of a disconnect what we are presenting to the customer, what the customer is really getting. And I have seen actually how my customers, AWS customers like United, Finnair, that was here, BA, and so forth, are engaging with the customers, are building that trust. For example, United built every trip as a story, using generative AI to communicate to the customer when there is going to be actually a change of seat, and there is a down gauge or an up gauge, why that occurs. So the text message comes to you and it says, look, the flight that I was supposed to pick you up is actually not arriving. We have to do a down gauge, so we have to move your seat, but you still are going to sit on the aisle seat that you book at the beginning. That is building up trust into the system, so that I've been taken care of by the brand. And that is what actually is happening today. People are actually buying experiences. They're not only buying product. Of course, you want to give the right price, gauge the propensity of purchasing of a product. And therefore, we have instances with TUI, with EasyJet, with Ryanair, that they deploy dynamic pricing. So they use MLEI, reinforcement learning models that adjust the price dynamically so that it slightly increase the price, adjust the bundles, and see how the demand changes. So if the customer buys it, the price is okay. If customer doesn't buy it, then we have to lower the price. And that impact the profitability of that specific product. But the end of the day is how you're going to deliver. Are you sure you are delivering what the customer is buying? And that is actually what we should pay more attention to.
Yeah, I would take a little bit of a different take on that. I think obviously there'll be consumer agents doing this, but airlines will deploy their own agents to sit on the other side of that conversation. So then maybe we can do this. So I've seen the front door for old timers here in 99, 2000, it was Expedia and Travelocity owned the front door of travel. And then Orbitz came in with a consortium of airlines to try to figure out how to not have them have their customers actually be somebody else. You had Google in 2008, 2009, everybody was going to Google search and saying cheap flights to London. And then a listing would come and then they created Google Flight Search to sort of address that volume. I think you're going to see something similar today. I think actually Steve Hafner mentioned it, which is kind of crazy. I was never thought he was a futurist, but saying how you might split out certain types of traffic and the ones that are low propensity to buy, for example, give them a different technology, a different set of pricing, let their agents speak to each other and not ruin the beautiful experience you can have, like with 3D seats and all sorts of other stuff. So I think it's going to change dramatically over the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, so it seems like with AI and with this technology, airlines will be able to give customers increasingly personalized options.
Yeah, the interesting thing about personalization is wouldn't it be great if every marketer had every email that was sent by a person in the last 20 years, every social media, every WhatsApp, every text message that they had? And these agents, given the appropriate commands, might share a little bit of that information with an airline agent, for example, so they could help tailor those experiences. If you just look at a listing and it's just the cheapest price and everybody picks the cheapest price, what about the price that's on page 12 that is actually matching the attributes of the person in their email? And that's what you want to, I think AI is going to pull those out. So having a better product may end up winning the war after all.
That level of personalization, I think, will be really interesting to see when it comes to buying a plane ticket. And I want to shift gears a little bit and go to you, Massimo. So what trends are you seeing in your work at AWS around how airlines are leveraging AI to enhance the consumer experience from initial shop to when a traveler boards their plane?
There has been an acceleration of adoption of machine learning, artificial intelligence. And actually, with the advent of generative AI, this has captured the imagination of all the executives. So all the executives are going down to the IT and says, do something about that. But they were already doing it, especially because there is a wealth of information that the airline has available that they can deploy this agent or this model to actually help to describe better the product, for example. We are seeing Expedia that is using MLEI, artificial intelligence, to select what picture to present to the hotel to the customer. So the customer is actually has more incentive of what is the hotel that they want to purchase. We are seeing an increase of personalization retailing, customer care, and connected experiences where MLEI is used, for example, in the contact center. The contact center agent is actually now receiving recommendation for remediation, summarization of the call, description of the customer that is calling so they can serve them better. You can have MLEI being used for IVR. So when you call, you are actually being guided and ask questions so you can actually address high volume, low value transactions with automation and pass to the agent only the calls that are really relevant and that needs a person to answer that. Those are the things that are being done today with Air Canada, with Delta, with Priceline, with Ryanair. And that is actually the application of machine learning, artificial intelligence at the service of the customer. What is the underlying challenge is having the data. Do you have all the data that is needed for this model to operate? And if you don't, one of the things we always talk about is being customer-centric. Do we have a single view of the customers in your organization? Most often than not, we see the loyalty is not talking to sales, is not talking to operation, is not talking to marketing. For example, I came to this hotel, I checked in, I didn't have my my loyalty numbers. I asked at the reception, apparently I have 3. So, okay, so which one is me, number one, and which one has points? So being able to aggregate that information, collecting, aggregating, duplicating, creating a single source of truth for the customer is important because then you can better price the product, you can better do the bundle. And I can bring tons of examples about that, but that is what is happening today. Improving the customer experience, that is the application. Make sense?
No, definitely.
I agree. And I think data is at the core of all this. I've noted it's been mentioned several times throughout the show yesterday. The quality of the data is certainly something everybody should be concentrating on. These models only get better when the quality of data is good. And actually, you should be using AI to actually do that quality control on the data itself. So think of it as sort of this chain reaction of AI, helping AI do AI, but the core of this is all data.
Yeah, and and to follow up on that with all this change, Massimo, have you seen any changes around consumer expectations about how airlines are making these necessary technological changes to meet those expectations?
So obviously, the travelers has been educated by large technology provider out there, the Google, the Meta, even by Amazon, of having everything right there on their fingertips. If, for example, when I book my Uber, if I have to wait for more than 4 minutes, I cancel and order a new one. So there is an acceleration, a higher expectation from your customers. And it is not a technology problem. It is actually the rate of adoption of the technology that is there. So we have actually a couple of panelists before that they were talking about that, Glenn, on the revenue management. We have the data, we have all this expertise, but the rate of adoption need to accelerate, as well as the rate of the technology that comes out. How do you keep up on this? And that is one of the challenges that we see in generative AI is nobody want to be first because they are afraid to get egg in their face, but they don't want to miss out. And everything is changing every day. So, but the customers has been educated to, hey, I go to my phone, I get everything right there and then. United, in fact, put the mobile app as pivotal to their success of today. United Airlines won the mobile app of the year in 2023 at the World Aviation Festival. For example, very simple things that help the customers is when their flight is delayed and it lands in Chicago or Houston, they are actually communicating to the customer if they're going to make the connection saver. So if they're not going to make the connection, they accommodate right away. But if they're able to make the connection, they are actually holding the connecting plane for a few minutes and guide the customer through the airport to get to the gate to make the connection. That is phenomenal to me because I know that the airline has my back. It's going to take care of me. And that is the essence of retailing. I didn't buy a seat on a plane at the price that the revenue management system gave me. They actually I was there because I need to get a destination. And that is what technology is able to do that. So deployment, and the technology is available today. So if you want to use it, no better time than today, off-the-shelf technology, you try it out. If it works, you deploy in production. If it doesn't work, you stop using it and you pay for only what you have tested. There's no better time than that to do this than today. And this is what you should be doing throughout your organization.
I think what Massimo brings up is a great point, because our app the development has been very customer focused, right? So we develop technologies to solve real problems faced by customers. And we've just made Connection Saver actually better this week, because not only are we holding the flight for you and we're telling you we're holding it, in the app, we're now showing you how to get to your gate, how far it's boarded. We show you what group is currently boarding, how many minutes you have until the doors close, and we show you there's like a sign in the app where you can hold up in your flight to tell other people that you have a tight connection and they should let you off the plane first. So all of these innovations sound relatively simple, but in aggregate help save a lot more connections in practice.
Yes. I think United is taking a leap forward, even on retailing. If you have seen the announcement from Scott Kirby 2 days ago, actually, the 1st of April, that they are going to have Starlink in the plane. And they are going to bring the United Connective Media to the next level. What is that? They are actually aggregating the customer information, anonymizing, creating cohort, and making it available through a clean room mechanism to third party. So this third party can target the customers through the United digital asset, wherever they are at, with relevant ads and relevant offer. The way that I usually explain it is, I'm Ticketmaster. I'm coming down to Chicago. There is a concert. So Ticketmaster can go to United Airlines and says, hey, for all the customers, all your travelers that are going to be in Chicago this coming weekend, can you please send this ad? And then this magically appear on my United mobile app, or in my back in flight entertainment, or through my messaging that I have. So you see that your customer, the time you can sell to your customer is not only when they go to your website to search for your seat and so forth, but you capture the customer even before he buy the ticket. And when he bought the ticket throughout till it reached back home, it's your customers. And you can target accordingly with the relevant offer, relevant promotion, relevant ads. And United is at the cusp of this transformation.
I think the key to extracting value, like Massimo illustrated, is everything starts with having good data, right? So we see an advantage in marketing because we have accurate personal information from our travelers and accurate privacy layers to prevent that from being misused. But similarly for AI agents, like for bundle optimization, you need good data on what the customer saw and what they chose and what prices they saw. So all of this sort of starts with some messy data lake, and a lot of work needs to go into making that data usable.
Yeah, I think I could see a time where agents are like in a flea market doing a second bid auction, and they're looking for ancillaries. They're saying, hey, this is what I like, this is what I've seen. They negotiate with each other, and then the offer gets presented back to the taskmaster of the agent, and they decide what to buy, for example. So I think a lot of crazy, interesting use cases are going to occur even above these that you've seen that you guys are talking about. So I think it's the art of what could possibly occur.
Yeah, I will say, as someone who flew United to Chicago this week, all those updates in the app about the boarding and everything were very helpful. And I don't think I had ever seen that before on an airline app. So very interesting to see all that innovation there. And Kevin, just to also follow up with you, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the research that you've done on like the time between the initial purchase of the flight and when a customer actually boards the aircraft.
Yeah, so I think I'm not the first person to say this in this conference, but after someone books a flight, that's your prime opportunity to sell ancillary services, and dynamic bundles help increase the sales of your ancillary services. And actually, not only does it make it easier for us to optimize the prices, because the external factors that affect your customer's choice are reduced because they've already picked the flight. You know that they're flying with you, so we need to worry less about like what other airlines are offering in terms of their dynamic offers and compare that in real time. but also we know a lot more about the customer at that stage. We know their frequent flyer status, we know their past travel history, their preferences, so we can tailor what we show to that person in particular. So it's a great opportunity. And the other thing we found in our research is that when you assemble these bundles, the products you bundle, the opportunity for revenue increases is even higher if the two products have what we call negatively correlated willingness to pay. So in simple words, that would mean if I value one thing, I'm less likely to have a willingness to pay for the other thing. So an example would be like if I check a bag, I'm most likely going on vacation, leisure traveler. So I'm less willing to pay for Wi-Fi, for example, than what a business traveler might want to value Wi-Fi at. So bundling them together gives airlines an opportunity to offer that Wi-Fi pass at a discount to leisure customers. So you only get that discount on Wi-Fi if you pay for the bag. So it's another way of segmenting your product to the different audiences on the plane.
Well, the interesting thing about the audience is too, because some people have their business travel hat on one time and then they have their leisure travel hat on the other. They're using their points in one case and they're accumulating their points in the other case. And being able to delineate that, especially when you're offering up to the same person, and knowing what that trip's about is quite important.
And also MLEI is used actually for the crew. So you make this information available to them, so when the customer is there, they can support them wherever they are at. Ryanair, for example, developed the Ryanair Connected, that is their self-serve mobile app for the crew, and they have information about who is on their plane, what they bought, and they are going to thank them for the purchase that they made, that they can actually look if they got disrupted the time before, if they lost their luggage, so how they can make remediation, make a recommendation. These are the kind of intimate relationship that you can start having with your customer and serving them better. And how is the technology serving that for that specific purpose? Remember that also your crew, yourself are the most valuable assets that an airline has. So making you more productive and get the wealth of knowledge that you have, translate it into action for example, accelerating onboarding of other crew members or other flight contact center agent, for other pricing person. Now translating that, taking away the busy work and help onboarding your colleagues is very important. United, again, not because I don't like United, but United actually created this system, the Share Speaks English, to translate PNR in plain English. To actually start understanding a PNR takes between 6 months and 2 years to master that. Now they were able to very simply train a generative AI model. They use Llama 2, and then with only 100 PNR, you can translate that into gibberish on a green screen in plain English. That helped the agent to become more proficient and not waste time to decoding these things and helping the customers on where they are at. That is how technology helped to overcome the shortage of labor that we are seeing and the complexity of the systems that all of you are experiencing, and how to translate that in more accessible information for everybody.
Yeah, I would note too that there was, I think it was mentioned in the previous panel about one of the issues they were potentially having was around subject matter expertise and having enough subject matter experts. It's actually flipped around. I teach at university, and my students will ask me, am I going to have a job as a data scientist when I get out of school in a year? And the answer is, typically it's like you want to be the conductor, not the violinist. You want to be the subject matter that understands each of the instruments, not perfectly, but knows how they all plug and play together, to be a subject matter, to be around the industry for 10, 15, 20 years. This is going to be the chance for them not to be technology transformed out, but to shine, actually, because they know all the processes. They know all these crazy places where they might be able to do things. And if they can just think about it, instead of taking 2 years to develop something, it could be 3 weeks. And now they can actually try these things very quickly in this new AI generation.
Yeah. And then I also was curious, for Kevin, on your point on these dynamic bundles and your research on that in practice, have you also noticed customers opting for those bundles over paying for everything separately when they're offered?
Yeah, I think it's been mentioned a couple of times that United probably has sold more bundles than anyone in this industry because it's integrated into our .com. And everyone who buys a ticket has the opportunity to sell these bundles. But it goes beyond just simple ancillary services like check bags and stuff. We have some very innovative ancillary services that we sell, such as our basic economy upgrade, as we call it. So if you booked a basic economy ticket, but then later realize you're too limited by the restrictions of the fare, you can click a button and upgrade to a standard economy fare. So it sounds very simple, but as an ancillary to sell this, and in the back end, changing all the fare rules, making it changeable, refundable, there's a lot going on to give customers all that choice.
Yeah. And then, Rick, I'm also wondering, how do you think the combination of these AI shopping agents and airlines doing more dynamic bundling and dynamic pricing, not only for the creation of the initial offer, but also for the upsell throughout the entire travel journey, will impact how airlines approach competitive intelligence?
Yeah, I think on the competitive intelligence side, certainly you want to compare and contrast. I think it's early days because that kind of data is actually difficult to harvest. I think a sharing platform like we have with Three Victors and Iris for shopping data could be done with some of this more clickstream oriented data. I think that's a process that would be interesting. There's no doubt that people love to comparison shop. They're going to want their agent to comparison shop. Especially leisure travelers. So, and they're going to then take that data and homogenize it. So this has been happening anyway. So everybody had a big computer screen, then they moved to a phone. How many, before you get carpal tunnel, how many options can you have? They were talking about millions of airfares and stuff like that. So ultimately, this is probably going to present you a couple different options. It's going to homogenize them. It might actually compare multiple carriers together. You could see what the trade-offs between value and the dollar you spend are, for example, and it'll know whether or not you have loyalty with them, for example. And, maybe it'll actually use virtual currency as part of its calculation on those things. So I think sort of the sky is the limit on what can be done with these things. And I think consumers will basically just say, hey, I'd like to go shop for this. Could you go, when I used to do this a lot with search engine optimization with Google, the number one query was, when's the best time to buy an airline ticket? They will actually know with this agent. It's like having a revenue manager on your shoulder and letting them loose. On the other side, you have to be a super revenue manager to interact with them.
Not always Tuesday, is it?
No, it's actually Tuesday at 12:30. And by the way, it's the Eastern time zone because they'll continue to ask that question every time.
It all comes down, though, to the trust that you have on the system itself. I think that the way that shopping is going to occur in the future is very different than today. Now, if you know what you're buying, that the customers, that the carrier, the travel suppliers is taking care of you, you don't really need to see a million of options. You need to see 3 or 4 options. And then you can interact with this agent that says, this is what I like, this is what I don't like about this option. And then it can come back with the other one. But it doesn't really need to display you millions of options. The thing is that you have to be able to describe enough the product that you are presenting, how you're going to take care of the customer when you get disrupted, when you get delayed, when the in-flight entertainment doesn't work. And that makes you different than anybody else. So when you show these 3 options, as, I'll take this because I trusted the agent, took in consideration all the information that they have about me, my past experience, my preferences, my loyalty status, what am I traveling for business, am I traveling for leisure? Just not to name, I was flying from Italy here, and I am in a business trip. So I bought it through BCD. I bought it not a business class, but it's a business ticket basically. And I travel only with a carry-on. So I am boarding. Oh, sorry, the overhead is actually full. So we have to check in your carry-on. Said, no, please, because I have everything here. And maybe, I'm going to be on an airline conference today after tomorrow. So if you don't want to be displayed on stage that you lost my luggage, you better let me keep my luggage right here. So, no, sorry, sir, we have to check it in. Fortunately, I got my luggage, but understanding that component would actually make a difference because now you can turn a challenge into an opportunity, right? To show that, yeah, we do understand you travel only with a carry-on, you're on business trip, so it's a different thing. All this information were available to them. They knew that. They had a negotiated fare. It is bought through an agency, so you know that. So why didn't you take advantage of that? So the information is there, technology is there, you simply need to break the silos and take advantage of it.
It's funny you mentioned we use generative AI to explain PNRs and tickets, but we've also started experimenting, like explaining bag locations, like all these bag reports and World Tracer, like all that information, making that parsable and understandable, and maybe even visible to the customer in real time. Where is my bag right now? Is a huge opportunity in the future.
Yeah, I will say it is very stressful when you are flying economy and you have a carry-on and then it's all of a sudden the plane is full and they want to check in your bag. I absolutely hate it when that happens. So,
and we are expert travelers. We know how the system works and we get frustrated. Think about the person travel once or twice a year. Well, what is going to happen to that person? How do we make the experience better? How are we more hospitable instead of being a transportation company to be an hospitality organization? That is the shift that we should get.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to touch on some of the audience questions because we have quite a few of them. So one of them is asking, we've heard about AI helping airlines better sell existing products. Will it also help them discover new products they can sell?
It's right up your alley.
Yeah.
Of course, yes. I think everything starts with data. Like in discovery, as we learn what customers are choosing, what they prefer, we will design new products to tailor to that taste. And I think data providers like Three Victors also help us with competitively what is happening in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think these AIs are super brilliant at what they do, and they're going to suggest, hey, how about you do this? So it's not just about being a subject matter expert. It's about using the AI to just throw crazy ideas on the board. So I think this is really honestly, the sky's the limit on what these things might look like. It's going to be hard to implement new products and get them through all the distribution channels in a way everybody wants to. I think everybody's sort of struggling with that, but I think ultimately, yeah, there'll be all sorts of new products.
I've seen clear trends, especially on the new modern airline retailing, a separation between the transactional platform and the decisioning platform. The decisioning platform is where you keep all your data, the customer information, the product information, the order information, as opposed to the offer creation, the order management, and so forth. Think about if you have that decisioning platform and you unleash a generative AI, and I was happy to see the product catalog conversation yesterday that says, hey, what are the products that are missing on my catalog that I should have? What are my competitor products I do not have? Or where should I put this product? How and how should I price it? That becomes a bit of an assistant to you to evolve your product offering, because now you have all the information in a single place that is your decisioning platform. You have the customer information, you have what customer bought and what you are actually offering. So I think that it is going to increase the number of products, make it more interesting, more appealing, that things that we haven't thought about before, because machine are not emotional as we are, so they're not to attach what we do, and they impartially look around to see what is actually making sense.
Yeah, I think most people don't know that like 1 in 10 adults, which is 5 billion worldwide, shop for air travel each day. So throw that statistic out there. That's somewhere close to 2 billion shopping requests each day worldwide. And so I think there's all sorts of interesting ways to monetize those shopping requests, and especially not even in the travel process. It can be something external to the travel process, dining programs, a variety of other things, especially the ones that have been offered up historically through loyalty programs, for example. I think they can start to bundle in some of the things they've seen with loyalty, use points as a virtual currency, partial pay, those kind of things, and other things. So I think there's all sorts of interesting ways to do it.
Yeah, I do want to get through a couple more audience questions. So another one is, what are some of the things airlines are doing or can do to manage the look-to-book ratio with AI agents coming into play?
Yeah, I guess that one's up my alley a little bit. It's just like it is today. So most websites, if you looked at the first 2 lines of the website, if you actually looked at the code, it has a little note to Google, please don't crawl me, right at the top. So I believe what we'll see is probably with agents, another little note, hey, agent, if you want to go do this, don't create a denial of service. Can you imagine what happens when 10 million people simultaneously let loose an AI agent? There will be not enough bandwidth. It'll effectively be a denial of service attack on the website. And so you'll have a note in there and say, hey, if you want to negotiate with me, I have a cache of stuff mentioned again in an earlier talk, and with information that may not be quite as live. And then hopefully the live data that comes back with a ton of optimization techniques that they're using to do that will be separate from that. So I think absolutely there'll be a technique to prevent your website from basically being inundated with requests.
Yeah. I guess maybe we have time for like one more question. Would it make sense to separately distribute a more extensive selection and fuller product descriptions that would be available only for AI agents? I guess we can do like a lightning round here.
I think potentially, like, it's like how travel agents don't show you all the airlines that are available. They recommend to you what reasonable itineraries with attractive prices. It's also how, like, when you go to In-N-Out Burger, like, they don't show you everything on their secret menu. They only show you the top few. And then if you want more, you can ask for it, similar with AI agents potentially.
I see actually a better description of the product itself. I mean, a machine has to understand that leaving, for example, from Venice, a flight at 7 in the morning, I have to wake up at 3 in the morning because that is what I have to go get ready, get to the airport and so forth. And getting an option at noon is better, even if it is $50 more or €50 more expensive. But describing data sets, taking into consideration everything, this agent can actually make better suggestions. So yes, you need to have a fuller description of what you're actually offering and the implication of buying this as opposed to other things.
Yeah, look, I mean, these 3D displays, these imagery and all that, there's always imagery to text. They're going to be able to, they understand intimately every piece and component. They will actually be able to reverse engineer that. So even if you just had a good picture of the item, it will then go, these are the pieces and parts of that. You don't even have to worry about that to some degree because it'll know every video, every image. It'll be able to reverse engineer every one of those things.
Yeah, so I guess we're out of time, but thank you so much for this engaging discussion on how AI is really revolutionizing the way airlines approach pricing.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.